Away from the current industrial woes, St. Lucia's Tourism Minister Alan Chasney has some concerns about Liat's business model. In fact, he tells CMC there's simply too much emphasis on profit-making at the moment and too little on development of regional hubs.
You look at a situation like a person from St. Vincent or from St. Lucia going through Barbados as an example, and having to pay the departure tax out of Barbados on a connecting flight, and even the physical process of going through customs immigration, going through the airport, and the two counters that are the furthest away from the customs and immigration arrival hall are Liat and Caribbean Airlines, which is where the majority of the connections are taking place, and then having to come back in. It's fraught with problems. The amount of time that's required for in-transit. So, for instance, in the case of St. Lucia, coming out of the UK, you arrive into Barbados at around 1:30 in the afternoon. The first flight out is at 9 o'clock at night. Is that really really what you want?
Chasney insists that more attention needs to be paid to the needs of the regional customer, and he says St. Lucia has been very aggressive in going out to look for new airlines.
And we were very happy that we've been able to reach an agreement with Winair, which will be starting our services through St. Martin and all the way down, hopefully, to Trinidad. And St. Martin has become a very important hub in terms of connecting to the St. Kitts and Anguillas, the BVIs, etc. We've also now been able to strike a deal where CARICOM Airlines out of Suriname are going to be opening up a mini hub out of Huonora. And we're going to be initially using Islanders, which will then be followed by Caravans, which will provide literally connections to Dominica, St. Vincent, Martinique, and Grenada on a very cost-effective way.
In more airline news, disgruntled Spirit Airlines pilot stayed off the job for the third straight day today, forcing the U.S.-based carrier to remain grounded. Management has canceled all flights up to Wednesday, with no immediate end in sight to a bitter dispute between the pilots' union and the management. The pilots, who took action on Saturday, are contending that their pay is not on par with their counterparts at American carriers. Sean Cree, the head of the Spirit unit of the Airline Pilots Association, says they want an immediate pay hike that would bring their salaries in line with other discount carriers, rather than steady increases over their 5-year contract. But Ben Baldanza, the president of Spirit Airlines, has publicly expressed frustration that pilots have refused to accept a 30% pay rise, which will amount to $70 million over the next 5 years. To court developments now in St. Lucia, the judgment goes to the opposition. The Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal today unanimously rejected an appeal filed by the St. Lucia Attorney General, Dr. Nicholas Frederick, in what has become known as the Tuxedo Villa affair. It was back in August 2009 that Justice Brian Cottle overturned a cabinet decision that granted Health Minister Dr. Keith Mondesi permission to transfer concessions on goods from his guest house Tuxedo Villas to his private property in Bonne Terre. Following the judgment, the Attorney General appealed the decision, and the opposition leader, Dr. Kenny Anthony, who was the main claimant in the matter, also cross-appealed and won. In upholding the decision of Justice Cottle, the Supreme Court today described the actions of the Stevenson-King cabinet as both irrational and unreasonable. The court went on to say that the cabinet of ministers had acted in bad faith and has sought to protect Mondesi, who had since agreed to and has started to repay the duty on the goods to the Customs Department. In welcoming the judgment, the opposition leader, Kenny Anthony, said it should serve as a lesson for politicians, not only in St. Lucia but across the region. He also said the judgment confirms that no cabinet can be reckless and do as it pleases, but ultimately, cabinet is answerable to the rule of law. Well, he's been very quiet over the past few months, but now he's back with a vengeance and ready to speak his mind. Lindsey Grant, the newly re-elected leader of the opposition People's Action Movement in St. Kitts, says his silence over the past 4 months was to allow the party a free hand to make a decision on its leadership. But now that he has been re-elected unopposed, Grant is answering his critics, both inside and out of the party, who have sought to hold him personally responsible for Pam's recent defeat at the polls. Grant, who went into the general elections with bribery allegations hanging over his head, maintains that though he's made some mistakes, his hands are clean.
I maintain that my hands are clean. My hands have always been clean. And I've led this party, and I intend to lead this party on integrity. And I have been the only politician in St. Kitts and Nevis who have put their liabilities and the assets on the table for everybody in this country to scrutinize. No other politician has done so. My mistake may have been to have not gone with another individual or my taping device, which would have revealed the entire story. That which we got was only a snippet, which was doctored by the Labour Party.
Grant, who's been under internal pressure to step down, believes the outcome of Sunday's caucus now puts that matter to rest. He says his primary mission right now is to take control of the reins of government.
As it is today, we have some serious critical issues that are facing the nation. For example, the electricity generation problem in St. Kitts. It was an election campaign issue in 2004. This is 2010, and we are still faced with it. Yesterday, the government passed a resolution to borrow $497 million from commercial banks when our national debt is already $3 billion. The government is ready to impose VAT at a rate of 20% on the people of this country at a time when we have 30% of the people living below the poverty line. These are critical issues which we are going to have to deal with over the next 18 months.
Lots more news to come, so stick around.